Welcome to Woodshop 101, a woodworking audio podcast geared toward the hobby weekend woodworker. Your hosts for the show are Jeremy Crawford and Drew Shore. Join these two different craftsmen for a lighthearted banter about everything in woodworking, online education, and how they produce content. Topics could include the latest news, tips, tricks, and designs, to include furniture, crafts, and shop projects. Welcome to episode number 16. Today, we're going to talk about what tool you want to buy next and why. And we might also dive into whether we recommend that for a beginner or maybe a more advanced person. So I'd like to remind you, if you listen to us on iTunes, please give us a 5-star rating. It helps us reach a greater audience. So what's going on with you, Drew?
Oh, not a lot here except for this past weekend. I did manage to dive back into my shop finally. I went out a couple of days beforehand and got it all picked up from my last project that was, like 2 months ago. Like I said, I kind of walked off and just kind of did a complete reset and got it all picked back up. Started organizing those drawers that I got in from the video that I made the week before and got them all filled and organized. I still got to put labels on them, of course. That's going to take a little while. But I managed to get the Freud Tools commission work done, and I submitted that off. They sent me another email back wanting some minor tweaks, which I finished late last night. I was up till about midnight. Got that sent off, and now I'm just waiting on a response to let me know if everything's kosher and they're going to post it on their website or not. Well, I know they're going to post it on their website. It's just a matter of when. But the projects were the drawers that I made for my assembly table. That was one commission job. And the other was making beadboard paneling out of solid wood, just using one router bit and a table saw blade. So that was very interesting because I'd never done that before. That was a good learning experience, and it turned out real nice.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely sounds maybe a little more complicated than buying a sheet that's already pre-beadboarded, but it'd be interesting to see it once it comes up on their website.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what kind of feedback it gets.
I bet a good feedback.
Well, so far they seem to like it.
Well, so at least you got out in your shop and kind of dusted it off.
And made more.
So,
what about you?
Yeah, in fact, I hadn't been in the shop a whole lot until yesterday or the day before, and I finally got back out there. I was just kind of waiting for my schedule at work to change. My schedule last month kind of kept me out of the shop. Like, I really only had nights or weekends, and I couldn't get that motivation to go out there. By the time I got kids in bed, well, dang, I'm already tired. And then on the weekend, we have things planned. I want to spend it with my son. And so this month, my schedule's changed. I have to work weekends now, I'm going to get some weekdays off. So it's easier to get out in the shop. And so I finally put the lingerie or jewelry armoire back up on the workbench and started cracking on finishing that. In fact, tomorrow, if all goes planned, it will be done. The latest, maybe one extra work day in there. Just depends on how humid it is and how quickly I can get a water-based finish to dry. Once that's done, then it's going to be on to finishing the fireplace mantle, and I'm kind of moving in a different direction than what I initially planned on doing with that. I planned on using some old hard maple that I have in the shop, and it's probably 1.1 inch thick, and I need 3/4 inch thick stock because that's how I built the plan. So I started the milling process, and then I'm kind of at the point where I don't know if I really want to keep taking that much off of those old boards. So I'm going to actually purchase some lumber to build it. And it's going to be painted, so it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I might go with like the body of it, maybe like a soft maple or a pine, and then the top, because it's actually going to be about 10 inches deep, because they want to put all their little media consoles on the top, like your DVR, stuff like that, because their TV's mounted above their fireplace. So I may do the top something a little different, maybe like a red oak, maybe a birch, something that's a little harder. That way that dent near is easy up there, but nothing extravagant or expensive, because like I said, it's going to be painted with some latex paint that's going to match the trim around their fireplace. So as much as I hate painting, I'm going to have to do that one thing.
Yeah, I know. I got a lot of stuff painted in my house too. My wife likes it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't. Sometimes painting's not bad, but I don't think I would have chosen the color that they went with. I mean, I understand it matches the trim that's going to be 6 inches below it, but it's like a cream color, and
like an off-white cream.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a little darker than off-white. I'm gonna say light. It's gonna be a mix between like a cream and a tan. And it definitely not a color I would choose. I understand why they got it, but I'm ready to have that piece out of the shop. Ready to get it done, get it out. Like I was talking to you just right before we started recording, I'm maybe getting ready to move in the next 6 to 8 weeks, and I need to get a few jobs done, and then I'm gonna have to go through and figure out if some of the pending projects in the shop are worth completing or scrapping altogether, because I'm not sure I want to move them if I can't get them built. And once I get them built, I know some of them, like the sofa table, I planned on selling. Well, I may have to end up selling it for quite a bit less than what I really wanted to, just to move it and free up, a few dollars of cash. That way, I don't necessarily put all that hard work to scrap, and I don't risk a completed project like that moving and getting damaged. So it's definitely good, though, to get back out in the shop.
Oh yeah, no doubt. I was kind of excited to get back out in there myself. Made me realize how much I missed it. Yeah,
and now thinking about moving the shop is getting me overwhelmed again, because I have a lot of tools, a lot of bigger items and a lot of wood that I may just end up putting up on like Craigslist for free for somebody to come get a truckload of scraps, and which is probably the best thing to do. That way I can start again with scraps, because if I move scraps, then I'm just going to keep those scraps around forever.
Hear that, everybody?
So,
free scraps.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what kind of wood, it's free.
Yeah. Well, I do have a lot of more exotic pieces that are cut-offs or little shorter things that I've held on to, like I'll incorporate that into a project. Well, that's where I had to decide, do I want to move 100 pounds or more worth of scrap wood and cut-offs, or give it to somebody that I know is going to use it probably pretty quickly. So
I've done that myself. Like I told you before, I've moved my shop from one location to another. Then I had to move everything out of my shop into a little storage unit in my driveway, which is one of my first few videos, just so I could redo my garage floor with epoxy flooring. And it was hard not having everything readily accessible. Even to do the flooring, I still needed some things out of there.
Yeah.
So moving the tools, especially, and you don't realize how many tools you have until you have to move them, just how heavy they are.
Yeah.
That's it's kind of a good segue too. This particular show is mainly about what kind of tool that we want to purchase next and why. Would we recommend it for a beginner? And it's just when you're a woodworker, you kind of accumulate all kinds of tools, and sometimes when you're in a small shop like you and I are in, it's hard to make room for even the bigger tools that you want to have in your shop. And I don't know what kind of room I've got. What kind of tool are you wanting to buy yourself?
Um, I've been thinking about this ever since I pretty much picked this topic, and I can't pinpoint any one tool that I want over another. So I would think if money wasn't an option and I could go out tomorrow and buy whatever tool I wanted, I'm probably going to buy an 8-inch joiner. Probably the Jet helical head 8-inch. But then I said money can't be an option because I'm going to have to turn around and have my shop wired for 220. So I would think the joiner is probably the thing I think about the most that I really wish I had. And I've never really bought one because I've kind of waited until I could get an 8-inch. Because most people buy a 6-inch and they're like, oh, I regret it. I wish I would have bought the 8-inch. So I think that's going to be my next tool that I would purchase. I mean, there's several others, but it's definitely high on my bucket list. What about yours?
Well, I've got a joiner that was given to me free from my brother. We actually traded. I had a little portable auger, like a drilling auger, to put fence posts in my yard, and he traded me that for his Delta Rockwell joiner. And it needs a little bit of TLC. I've got to take it all apart because the dovetail ways that raise the beds up and down are sagging a little bit, so I've got to shim them up. I want to give it a different paint color because it's kind of a machinist blue, like a light colored baby blue. I'm not really fond of it.
So you're just going to paint it with maybe like latex paint?
I don't know. I doubt it. Just I don't know if that'll take the abuse on the metal.
Maybe like I know they make like rattle can paint for like high heat and engine blocks, stuff like that. Maybe that would probably
be
a
better choice. Yeah. But to buy would probably be a floor drill press, because I don't have a drill press really. I've got a little benchtop model and it's very weak. I think it's like Central Machinery, kind of you get off like a bargain show. Yeah. So it hasn't been doing the job. The pulleys slip, and when I get into a real hardwood, the bit just stops and the motor just keeps on going. I've tried many ways to get it to work, and it just doesn't stay in tune.
Do you have any particular floor sanding drill press that you're interested over another?
I've had my eye on one that's been in Lowe's for quite some time. It's a Porter cable with laser mount guides and everything. I can't really afford the real extravagant ones like the Powermatics.
Yeah, I was really looking at comparing tools because I was going to do pretty much a full shop. So we already know my OCD, and my tools got to be the same. Kind of like Mark Spagnuolo's, where he pretty much has all Powermatic because they need to be the same. And I was either going to go pretty much a full shop of Steel City tools until they went out of business. And that, man, one of the last woodworking shows they went to, they debuted a bunch of their new tools, and they debuted an awesome 17-inch drill press that they created both for machinists and woodworkers. So it had two different tables. It had your small machinist table, and then it rotates 180 degrees, and you have your larger woodworking table. And if you rotated 90 degrees either direction, then you had full access all the way down to the floor to stand a piece. And that's the one I wanted. Like that was it. And then they went out of business. And I was also going to purchase their joiner as well. So after that, I was like, well, I really need to start looking. Am I going to go with Grizzly, a Jet, Powermatic? Which really start weighing our options here and see which company has most of the tools that I really like or the features I really like. And Grizzly, I think the only thing that I'm going to end up purchasing of Grizzlies is a dust collector. And that's probably going to be temporary until I could get like a Cyclone unit. But I've decided on Jet for the pure fact that Powermatic had awesome features, but for the same drill press for like $500 from Jet, I was going to be paying like $2,200 for Powermatic.
Yeah.
And the best alternative I can get is to do a shop full of Jet tools versus Powermatic, because that one drill press would be equivalent to 2 tools from another company. So I definitely get what you're saying, how you can't afford something like Powermatic.
Even the Jet tool. I mean, I just don't have the money for those.
Yeah, and that's where it comes down to. I'm just going to save. I'm going to use what I have and save until I get what I really want for the shop. And if it takes 15 years to get all the Jet tools, then that's what it takes. Minus the fact that I will have a saw stop cabinet saw one day. That won't be Jet, but it'll be kind of the same color. It'll have some red in it.
It'll be close.
Like Jet. I mean, one's black, one's white, but hey. So would you recommend a floor standing model over a benchtop model for a beginner?
For a beginner, especially somebody that is just trying to get their shop off the ground. Now, if you got the money, it's okay. But most people, when they want to get started, they're trying to save money, but still get the type of tool that they want. And to be honest, a floor standing drill press I wouldn't recommend for a beginner, because a lot of the projects that you're going to be doing as a beginner won't require the access to the floor and all those long projects that you might need that for. And even a benchtop model, you can still utilize that particular feature on some models. I mean, they make some pretty stout benchtop models, a lot bigger than the one that I have. And like I said, mine's just an off-brand. So if I was to recommend a drill press, I would say get a benchtop model to start with, so you can get the use of the features and what you can utilize the drill press for. And then as your skills progress, then you can upgrade to a bigger model.
Do you know what the price difference is for a floor model versus the benchtop at Lowe's?
Well, I know that you can get like Ryobi drill press benchtop models for around $125, I think. And the floor stand model that I want is $319. Okay, yeah, I'm looking on their website right now. So really the cheapest that at Lowe's that you can get is Skill. That's going to be $129. Yeah, so we're talking about almost a $200 difference. I don't know. I would lean the opposite way and say, if you could afford the $200 difference, the Porter cable would probably be better if I were beginning again. If I were starting all over, the Porter cable, just for the pure fact that I didn't only use my drill press for woodworking. I have friends that came over to the shop all the time to use my drill press with metal bits to drill out parts for their cars and stuff. So, yeah, that's not really beginner on me, but it got a whole lot more use, and I wouldn't have to trade it in near as quickly, because like you said, I got an old Craftsman, and it stops pretty quickly or does a lot of burning in the wood as it cuts, for the pure fact that it doesn't have the power to spin maybe a larger Forstner bit or to go through those harder woods like a Purple Heart. I'm pretty sure that it should have killed my drill press. I was spinning like a 2-inch or a 2.5-inch Forstner bit through Purple Heart, and I'm surprised that the drill press lasted through that.
because I did probably about 50 holes. But so
Well, you did make a good point, though, even though you probably didn't mean to. But it kind of struck me that when we were talking about if it's good for a beginner and if you can afford it, those two things kept coming up. Yeah, if you can afford it, get the bigger model. But if you can't afford it and you want the bigger model, the other route to go is through places like Craigslist.
exactly.
You can get the model that you want for the money that you want as well. You don't have to spend a big boatload to get a fairly entry level drill press. So
Yeah,
that's another way to think about it.
And I don't own a lot of like Harbor Freight tools. I am going to buy their their disc sander, just because it's a disc sander. It speeds up the process of sanding a pin blank when you're putting the brass tube in, and I don't see that I'll be using it much for anything else. So the $120 that Harbor Freight sells it for is worth it to me. And Harbor Freight has a 13-inch 16-speed drill press floor standing for $269. So there's also another great option if you're just looking at getting started. Mm-hmm. It may last you 2 or 3 years. It may last you 15 years. But for a little over $100 more, that's a good way to get started into that floor standing drill press as well. But like I said, there's nothing wrong with the bench top. It all goes based on what you're going to need it for, and how quickly do you think you'll outgrow it. How long have you been using your bench top?
Oh, I outgrew my bench top a long time ago. I just never took the money to go get a new one yet. But I've had that bench top ever since I started woodworking back in 2006.
Yeah, see, so technically, if you haven't gone and bought a new one, you really haven't outgrown this one. You still make it work,
or I don't use it,
or you don't use it. That's kind of how I am. I think the only thing I really use it for is drilling pin blanks at this point. Because if I'm going to spend another $120 or even the time to make a drill press table, I might as well put that money and time and effort in buying one that's more geared for woodworkers versus machinists. So
yeah.
I would say a jointer I would definitely recommend to a beginner. I don't know if I would go with the 8-inch jointer though as a beginner. A little benchtop model, and you can buy little 6-inch benchtop models versus like the 4.5, I think, that they sell at your big box stores. But even that, your big box store, you can pick up one for about $130. And I would say a jointer's not necessary, but it's a very nice to have. You can buy your S4S stock, already pre-milled from a lumber yard. You go to Home Depot or whatever and pick it up. Is it truly square and parallel from the opposite sides? No, it's not. But it will get you close enough that you can apply enough clamping pressure to clamp it out. But if you had that little joiner, that would make your life a little easier, especially if you're wanting to do things like cutting boards, or especially end-grain cutting boards, because if you don't joint those and get them pretty square, and when I say pretty square, I mean almost accurate, you're going to inevitably have an open gap somewhere on that cutting board, and that's really not good, especially when you're cutting meat and stuff on it. You're going to have all that bacteria getting down in that gap and growing.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say a jointer's very recommended for a beginner. It's just maybe not the 8-inch is recommended. Kind of like you. I started with the bench top, and now through time and the size of my projects, a bigger one is where I need to be.
Yeah, my first one was a little Craftsman. I think it was a bench top model, but it was on a stand. and it was a 6-inch, but not
It wasn't a
not
long.
that
It wasn't a long bed, right? It's probably only like 24 or 36 inches long.
right. It was a little more compact, but it was still on a little roll around stand.
Yeah.
But I mean, I got it from a garage sale. I think I bought my first. I think I bought my first lathe and that joiner together for $100. So that was a price I couldn't pass up.
Yeah, and sometimes, yeah, you look at garage sales or Craigslist and you find crazy good deals. So, all right, well, we've been advocating voicemail as a way for you to contact us for quite some time, pretty much since we started the show. And we decided that, like we discussed on the last show, that we're not really getting a lot of voicemails in because of the complexity of having somebody get on the computer, open up Skype, or even download the app to your phone and call us in through Skype. So we went other options, and we found a way to get a phone number. And so we did that, and we actually got our first voicemail to share with you guys on air today. And this is going to be from Christian, and I'm probably going to butcher his last name. I'm going to say it's like Houlihan.
That's what I was going to say.
Maybe. All right, he's from Artisan Care. And let's see what he has to say.
Hi, this is Christian Houlihan. Thanks for having me on to talk about Artisan Care. We started in 2014 as a way for woodworkers and artisans to collaborate on a project that they might not otherwise have a chance to work on, with a goal to then build it and give it away to a family organization that could never afford it. These event builds happen entirely on one weekend and allow people of all skill levels to come together and participate for either a few hours or the entire time. The vision for Artisan Care has grown beyond just weekend builds, either in town or across the country, to include a facility that can function as a home for local builds and a production shop that can make short runs of handcrafted furniture that's too complicated to make on a weekend. Items like bunk beds or chairs or even dressers. We are actively looking for sponsorship partners, individual donors, or material donations so that we can fully launch Artisan Care as a 501c3 nonprofit in 2016. Our next build will take place here in Nashville, September 12th and 13th, and then we have another independent build scheduled for early October in Lafayette, Indiana, just north of Indianapolis. If you would like to participate in any of these builds, you can visit the website, artisancare.org. We need to raise about $1,500 to cover the costs for the events. We also need about 15 to 20 people to show up and help us build. If you live in either of the areas, either Nashville or Lafayette, Indiana, and you'd like to help, again, go to the website, artisancare.org, and click on the Find Out More or Donate Here buttons on the homepage. Please spread the word to your local woodworking community. All people are worth having things of quality, and I know that individual craftspeople care about creating quality work. Please help Artisan Care give generously by giving generously of your time, experience, and money, because nobody deserves particle board. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
All right, so I know I talked about this back in one of our first episodes. I eventually want to put on an Artisan Care project in my local area, wherever that local area may be. Because I agree with him. I mean, sometimes just having like that nice dining room table or the nice piece of furniture that you can get your friends and family gathered around just brings a community together. And putting politics aside, really, I mean, with the world and how people are acting right now towards police officers and all this other, we need to build time as a community to come together. And I think what he's doing is awesome, and I definitely hope to take part in it one day. Yeah,
I agree. And I mean, just that last sentence he said at the end is like, nobody deserves particle board, and sadly, that's what a lot of these high-end furniture dealers are selling, and you're just throwing your money away.
Yeah. So I'll put the website for Artisan Care down in the show notes. You can head over there, and on his website he has a link for you to donate if you want to donate some money, or if you're local to him, contact him and go help out. Or if you know somebody, a lumber yard or somebody that has some lumber that would not mind donating it, that would be awesome for him too. Because I know what it's like to work on charity projects and try to get donations from people and not all of it come out of your pocket. Mm-hmm. So I definitely glad we had our first voicemail. Give us some kickback and some feedback on how that voicemail came across, and if you liked how it was played. Being our first time, we're not really sure how it's going to come out on the recorded end, and hopefully it works out for us.
And thanks to Christian for leaving us our first voicemail.
Yeah. So, all right, well, we have some kickback. Drew, you want to?
Yeah, see, we had a few comments come through on our past show. Steve Carmichael actually was one of them, saying that he enjoyed the show and loved to hear Paul's voice, since we had Paul Mayette from Paul Mayette's Woodshop on our last show. Steve liked to hear Paul's voice. Like I told Paul is that his voice didn't look like his face on YouTube.
No, it doesn't.
He said, "I hope your shoulder heals quickly, and you guys need to dust off your shops and make some stuff." I think he's talking to all of us in that one.
Yeah. Well, at least we got back out in the shop. So Steve.
Yep. More kickback there, Steve. You got a rebuttal on that.
Yeah, we did get back out in the shop. We've dusted off, got some projects going. So, I think the next one here is pretty funny, being that Paul was the guest.
Yeah, and I don't know. We'll just let you decide. It's this is Paul Mayette, of course. Another great show, guys. Paul was an awesome guest. He was really interesting and fun to listen to.
I'm going to agree with him there, but it's quite funny that you comment on your own show. That's a dedicated listener right there.
That is.
That means he at least listened to it, or part of it. So
well, we can't guarantee he listened to all of it, but he knows he heard himself at least.
Yeah.
So are you one of those people that like to hear yourself talk, Paul? That's what my mother always used to say. I'm not talking to hear myself talk. Well, I think Paul is. I think he wants to hear himself.
Well, that's okay. I mean, he might think he has a sexy voice. So, all right, guys. Well,
that was a little far.
Hey, he might. You never know. All right. Well, if you'd like your question answered on air, guaranteed, or you just want to hang out with us after the show, you can become a patron of our Patreon campaign. You can head over to www.patreon.com/woodshop101 and donate anywhere from $1 to $60 and have some great rewards in there. And I know we talked about other avenues, and for those of you that want to support the show but don't want to have a reoccurring cost, I have set up some PayPal donation links. They'll be down in the show notes, and they're one-time donations. If you want to head over to the show notes and donate, I think I got like a $1 and a $3, and then a custom amount set up. Be awesome. Anything helps. 50 cents. Anything helps with server costs and keeping the lights on. So,
and any donations in the future that we get to will also help us get a dedicated website for the show. Just what else we got? We got some other things planned. I'm just I can't think of them right offhand, but just anything that you guys can give us really helps push the show to its next level.
Yeah, and I know the website's probably a big one because it's hosted on my website, and we would eventually like to get its own separate website so it can start collecting on its own revenue, and you don't necessarily have to weed through my website to get to the Woodshop 101 page there. So, all right, well,
Guys, we've had a pretty quick show today, but mainly just because we didn't have a guest. Hopefully we can find a new guest, and kind of like we did before, if you guys have any suggestions for another guest, you can leave them on our Facebook page, which is one of the ways that you can contact us, or you can do it through Twitter, or even just send an email straight to us at woodshop101podcast@gmail.com. You can also listen to our shows through Jeremy's website at woodshop101podcast.com/listen. You can also find us on YouTube and iTunes. Be sure and leave us a rating on those as well. Share and like the shows if you find that you did like them. To help us get us in the public eye a little bit more, and that will also help us with sponsorships in the future, which will also help drive the show to a new direction. You can also find us on Skype if you want at Woodshop 101 Podcast. But also, if you want to leave us a voicemail, that phone number is 409-234-3959. And you can make that from any device, such as a cell phone, landline phone, anything like that. That way you don't have to go through your computer to actually leave us a voicemail. We post new episodes every 2 weeks. And hopefully we'll have a guest on our next show. And if you guys, like I said, have any suggestions, be sure and send them our way. So from Jeremy and myself, we guys wish you well. And please remember to be safe in your shops. And we'll do our little sign off here. 1, 2, 3.
Boom.
Boom!